Hello, today I'm working on some final details for Petroleum Mesa. Right now I'm working on is a tank refiller for the tanker cars off to the right hand side. So I was having a little difficulty figuring out what it should look like, to how to, I don't know, what it would look like if it was filling up a tanker full of oil. So I tried out some different things with the supports and cylinder pieces. I think it turned out pretty well. It looks realistic to a point. Yeah. Also was trying out to see if I should have put down some valves and something to be, I don't know, realistic to a point where it is believable. The back end of the tank that you see, I didn't like at the end, so I deleted it off. I deleted it toward the end of my session. Just watching this again, I see that I could have used different pieces for some things. Yeah. I do like that I put down this little walkway so that some person can actually walk over to the valves and turn them if they had to or something. So I only spent I don't know, 20 something minutes on this dispenser of oil. Not much time, but I think I needed to put something there in this corner. It looked empty for a while. And yeah, I was trying to think what else next to work on, so I did some finishing touches of lights and some other little details that makes it more believable. And then I should get to work probably next on the locomotive that should be pulling these two tanker cars from this facility. So, oh well, first I need to work on the buffer to make it more realistic, so the train doesn't, I don't know, fall off the tracks. That would not be good. So I worked on this for a little bit, not much into it. I was trying to think of how a buffer should look like, especially in this scale. Because the trains that I have constructed are a little bigger than the normal trains of Parkitect, so I had to figure something out to make it look believable. And I think it turned out okay. I might have done some more details off camera, but I think it turned out okay. Now onto the locomotive. I had saved blueprints of bogies, so I don't have to redo those every single time. And I was trying to figure out how long the locomotive should be, and I think this was way too long. See how long it was? Yeah, no, I decided to change that. That's time to change it, make it smaller, make it more believable. So I just got back and made about, it looks like 3 full squares from each bogie. So in mind for this locomotive, I was thinking of more of a very basic freight diesel locomotive, so the dark green color with the running boards of gray, yellow for caution for the, I don't know, what they call, cow catchers maybe, as you call them, near the couplers. So that was the thought so far. The top of it I didn't have an idea until I had to make some sort of box. The box needed to happen to give me the idea of what the front of the locomotive would look like. So I know that most diesel locomotives are a box anyway, so it's a box of, yeah, bread loaf on top of wheels basically at this point. So I tried that out, figuring out where the nose should go, where the cab would be, if it was believable enough. I changed this, I think, at least twice before finally landing on the final version. And also was thinking on using regular cubes for the windows, but it didn't turn out. Same thing with these borders I was putting on top. They look good with those little lines, but I don't think they turned out to what I exactly wanted them. So as you can see, I'm trying with the window piece and trying to use shapes to cover up the bottom, and I was like, no, it's better if I just use walls. So I did. I used some walls to kind of give them those rectangular windows that you would see on a locomotive this size. And then build the engine room, or the nose of the locomotive, to give that box looking nose. Then I just used a simple roof angle to give that box triangular look. And then as I was building, I was like, I need to build some concave parts showing vents or engine parts. So I messed around with that for a little bit. So I used a simple diagonal wall to give those triangular edges, and I was content until about like halfway, I was like, I need like texture, so I will be changing that in a little bit. Here I'm also trying to do some blue coloring to match the theme of the facility's theme, as you can say. So I tried a blue border, but I was like not content to where it was going to sit, so on to the next thing I wanted to work on was the railings from the locomotive, so the front and the back. I'm also working on the bottom of the locomotive where the fuel would actually sit for the locomotive, so something you can see from this angle, but with Parkitect's angle you can't really see much, so I try to give that impression that you can see it somewhat. So you can see here I'm trying to do some touches on working on the vents, as you can say. So I'm just doing some border detailing, finishing up some of the, finishing up details basically. And I was trying to think of what should I use for the fence. Found that borders are a little too big. I wish pillars were a little bit smaller, not as tall, but I kind of pushed them down so that they can give those little offset. So they're okay. Most of the pieces in Parkitect are pretty large actually compared to the human beings in the game. So here I'm using the hanger piece that goes across, I think, scaffolding. I'm using that for some of the top parts, just to finish off some details to give it that locomotive caution look. Like this locomotive's been through stuff and people have to work on it. Now as you can see here, as I explained earlier, I was going to change it out for a texture so it looks like some grates or something, so I just used the regular hanger walls to replace that. Also I was thinking of putting in details from the chimney piece, but didn't turn out, they're too big. And on top of the locomotive would be two, like, probably outtake vents for, like, the engine, something like that. So I was trying to figure out, I couldn't put a cylinder there, so I had to go do some small shapes and small cylinder plates, and so it turned out pretty nicely. It looks good. It's starting to look like a locomotive. As I build on, it starts changing and evolving to the point where I enjoy just building it. Adding some more little details of squares and blocks, stuff like that. Finishing some borders up, and just touching up detail. So here I try again with the blue like line to give it like some character. So it's like some facility owns this locomotive to deliver their oil to another facility. Something like that. So I was just imagining what it would look like. So whatever this facility's name, I haven't given the name for this story yet because I still have to finish up some other details in the map. But as you can see, I did the lantern parts of the locomotive, the front and the back, with just simple cylinders, and then on top it became a horn later. It was going to be like another lamp, but I changed my mind to be, oh no, it needs to be a horn. I need a horn on top to just show that it's a horn. So then I got the light piece, got to put that in manually because grid confines you to a point, so I did that. So I did those in the back and the front, and switched out, and also put in a sci-fi lamp to give it an impression that it's actually on, because those lights don't give off actual light. So, and then I changed out the ones in the back into red, and yeah, the locomotive just got put together, just kind of formed itself together. Now, as you see, next thing I was working on with that rough cut, I had an idea of using the transport tubes as an obstacle of play instead of just being underground, because most times when you play through a map you just place them underground. And so I was thinking like maybe this can be a pipe that came from the drill that's later in the map, and so I figured, okay, let's use that as a prop. And I was hoping later on you'll find out that I was hoping that this pipe would add like a negative decoration rating, but I found out later that it kind of doesn't work that way. And I was talking to, I think, Sebastian on the Discords of Parkitect that it's supposed to be a negative rating, but for some reason it's not working. So at this point I'm leaving in the map because it is a obstacle to build around. I'm making sure that it's not deletable, so you can't delete it if you play on this map, so it's just there. And yeah, here I'm working on a pump house for the pipe, and into the 3 I don't know, oil tanks you can call them, with the big yellow pipes. Those are in the front of the park, so it's just the illusion that this is going to be pumping oil into another reserve tank and then processed in the plant and then delivered onto the tanker cars and then delivered to some gasoline place. Not really sure, but that's the imagination of what I'm building here. So as I'm just finishing up some piping, just to make it look somewhat realistic. Most of the builds that I do are not supposed to be realistic. I mean, it is a game, after all. This is a made-up world. So I'm just doing little things like that, just more, I don't know, as you call it, grunt work. Just doing details like this, so... yeah. This map has been in production in my backlog for like several weeks. I maybe should have worked on this first, but I had other maps I was working on. So as we get over to the actual drill, which is more in the middle of the map, I had to figure out, oh wait, I need to put these oil drums over here are temp storage. They need to go into the other pipes for the transport tubes. Keep in mind the transport tubes are still being used actually as for transfer for like food places, but in this map I'm trying to make the illusion that they're using it for also transport of oil. So we have to go now hide that pipe going into the ground again, because I want to maybe make a shop somewhere in the back here. So just making some pipes go over pipes. I haven't done that in a while, so I was trying to figure that out. So it's just like, yeah, okay, pipes go on top of pipes. Okay, let's see how realistic I can make this, or somewhat believable. In retrospect, I should have put some like pillars to support them, because they're kind of looking like they're just floating. I might do that off camera, something like that. So little details like that as I watched through this recording. I just didn't realize I had to like redo some things. Like, for example, the little oil barrels in the back were actually like miscolored, like at the bottom. So I finally fixed those, but in the last recording I was like, oh shoot, I left them. Oh no. So yeah, as I work on it. So I'm going to put a depot and a food vending machine to make it usable and give you an idea what to do. So I made the pipe go right just directly into the ground, and now I need to hide it to make it look more realistic, or to give it that illusion that it's another pump house or some facility to deliver it off to the next location. So I just grabbed some walls from what I've used before, the concrete ones, and just kind of cover up. And as I was realizing, I'm like, oh, I need to make it a little bit steeper so that it's not as noticeable, and it finally worked out. I was going to do more of a rectangle, as you see here, but I was like, that's not unique enough, so I had to go and do some little bit more rectangles and a square on top, basically. Kind of like build from there. And then I realized I was like looking at my oil barrels here, and I needed like, oh, I need bubbles on top to give it an illusion that it's hot, or maybe it's still churning, if you can say that. So I will put a little Mickey just because I think it would be cute. So back to working on the pump house. I'm gonna call it a pump house at this point, because it basically is. So we just need to make it look like the rest of the buildings in the area. So the blue trim, and then some of the other roofing that I use quite frequently, and then we have some of the, I don't know, what do you call those, brick corners, I think, something like that. That's on like old-fashioned buildings. So I decided to make a little balcony on this pump house to give like workers something to look out to if they need to for emergencies or something. Like little, I don't know what you call these, not cooling towers. They're like more like cylinders holding some type of gas, or maybe like a liquid for pumping. So try to place those in, kind of give it a industrial look. Industrial look is just kind of like a hard thing to achieve sometimes when you have to think about putting a whole bunch of pipes or cylinders or some type of machinery or some sort. So adding little cylinders like this for the pipes or these barrels gives it more detail and gives it a look. Also, I was thinking like I need some yellow fencing for caution, so that, oh, this is a caution area for the employees. Back here is more of like, I don't know, more concrete structure and maybe piping. That's what I do, just do piping everywhere. If you have making a machine or some type of warehouse, piping is the way to go for detail. You just start making tons of it. Just make it come out of every known wall or roof possible, and then you're like, oh, now it looks like a machine. That's what I kind of did with the drill over here. So I was looking at some of the details on how this pipe looks. I changed out some of the pump house over here, and then I realized I needed to put some air conditioning or vents or some type of machinery on top to give it a mechanical look. So I tried out different forms of AC units, and I just crumpled down to make another copy, because if it's not broken, don't fix it. Just go with it and then go on to the next thing. So that's what I was doing over here. I don't normally worry myself about air conditioning vents, but I've been doing them more often in my builds anyway. So as I build some of the air ducts, as they're called, so I'll try to put some of those down. Oh, and keep in mind, I've been using Construction Anarchy mod for this entire build and majority of my builds. That's the only mod I will accept right now, because I do like the vanilla the assets. The vanilla stuff gives me more of a challenge of what can I create with vanilla versus just getting a mod off the workshop. So I'll just do that, and I've been doing that ever since I've gotten the game. So as I look things over, I wanted to make sure that for the campaign that you don't get to delete the front of the factory and the pipes. I want to make that a thing that you have to build around. I'll let the warehouse be destroyable, because you can build a ride in it if you wanted to, but also make sure that the pipes also are not destroyable underground either, and the depot. So the depot is yours from the beginning. You can do whatever you want with it, but you can't delete it. So I was just doing maybe some details of plants growing around the pipes. I might later change out those pillars, but I haven't really decided. I can also maybe recolor the pipes themselves by putting shapes on them, but I haven't really decided yet. I still want to make sure that if you cover it up and it does do a decoration negative, then it's not going to block it. So I'm gonna leave it as is right now. I'm just doing some final touches with the ash paint. It looks like oil. I don't know why we call it ash, but it looks like oil, so I'm just gonna do some oil spots here and there and make it messy. I mean, this facility is not the cleanest at all. It's oil. Oil is like one of the dirtiest things on the planet. And I wanted to put a little sign detail for this factory symbol, so I made that like in video 2, I think. Yeah, my second video. I made that a while ago. I grabbed these signs from Happy Co Harbor, because you can just grab them if you just blueprint things. And so I was like, okay, I need Happy Co stuff, because the last time I did a Happy Co thing was in my first campaign level Delta 5. So I was like, okay, now this is Happy Co's oil facility. So I noticed that it was orange. It's like, oh, wait, I need to change the color. So I decided to change the color of all the blue into an orange to give it that matching look. So I went around and repainted the locomotive to an orange, and then I went around and repainted the last 2 signs in the warehouse and the pump house, and then I'm like, okay, oh, I have to now paint the ones on the drill and the little house in the corner. So I did that too. I think the orange is better than the blue, because it kind of matches the scenery around of the dirt, and it matches the sign now. So as I do a shuffle of paint parts, switching paint is somewhat of a pain, but I found some shortcuts here and there how to do it. Just copy and paste the code into the paint tool, and then you just have it. And save it if you can. I've saved so many different colors. I have so many colors to choose from now that I could just go pull from my catalog. As I just redo some touches on the buildings, it kind of matches now the rest of the facility. As you see in the back, you can see some of the Mesa that I've worked on. That was like off-camera grunt work, just filling with cylinders. Here's the thing I was explaining about earlier. I was trying to see if there was red, like, you know, red when a bad decoration happening, and I noticed that the pipes were giving off that decoration rating. So I was like, do I just keep it? And at this point, I'm keeping it because I don't want to get rid of it. It is a point of use right now. And we're going to finish some details up here and there. Okay, this video is almost done. So I'm going to finish up the bottom, not the bottom, the top of the sign. So I needed some, like, I don't know, actual things to hold up the sign, because that sign, when I grabbed it up from the Happy Co Harbor, it was on a building, so it didn't have a support, so it's kind of little off. not really connected, but it's believable from this angle. And then I had to go check in some lights, see if all my lights were okay, all the things like that, and double check the whole facility one more time, because this map is basically almost done. Well, I'll see you in the next video.